Okay, so Improving is an organization that actually has been a great supporter of DMC since 2017 at our events in Calgary. And today we're here with Brian Voort, Vice President of the Consulting in Calgary. Brian, thanks very much for being with DMC today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
So Improving formerly was known as Quadris, but you actually adopted your parent company name. And Improving is, you have offices in Canada, the US, and Mexico. Can you tell us a bit about Improving?
Yeah, so Improving as an organization has been around for about 15 years, and our office actually joined in about 7 years ago. And we have the same sort of philosophy of delivering excellence, building trust with our clients, and we're in here for the long run, and we have the complementary expertise in different areas, in software development, agile training, and data. So it's a complementary marriage, and subsequently we've grown considerably. We've even doubled our size through COVID. So
that's fantastic. That's a great achievement. So in early 2021, Brian, you're going to be actually speaking with us in an event around AI, ML, and data science. So in that vein, I've got a couple of questions for you, if I may.
Absolutely.
So artificial intelligence and machine learning is growing quickly into the mainstream of data operations. These organizations that do it well are recognizing it increasingly as a decisive competitive advantage. What are kind of 2 or 3 areas that you really see that organizations that could focus their AI ML efforts when they're just getting started?
Yeah, thanks, Wade. That organizations, I look at this, and organizations, if we are looking at a problem, and let's say I'm a CIO and I'm trying to establish my advanced analytics program for next year, what do I need to think about? And this is kind of the lens I want to answer this question with. Often, companies go in and start looking at adopting new technologies just because they read the latest Gartner report and say, oh, okay, I need to have an advanced analytics program, and that's great, but you need to sort of look at it and say, well, how does this technology actually help my business? And what we like to do is focus on, let's establish use cases where we actually think that there's value, rather than going off and looking at, here's a tool, let me see if it will help. You've got to really look and understand those use cases. And with AI and ML and probably other technologies as well, you need to go in this with to be prepared to fail. And if you're going to fail quickly. And fail is a harsh word. I don't really mean necessarily fail, but because sometimes failure is success. So every time you learn something, but you might not necessarily get in down the road to say, all right, I am going to go in and, AI and ML is the solution to this problem. But you might find the solution while you're going down that road. So what I would do is sort of be prepared. It's not going to go in, and this is a bit of an experimentation, but wrap this around a process that facilitates that. So we work with organizations, and we'll go in and say, this is not the traditional project management, stage gate process. What we need to do is put this in some sort of agile, iterative approach so that we can go in, iterate through this, and then come to the point and say, hey, I've created a POC, or I have these learnings. Should we go and move this forward? So, that gives us that sort of safe way to fail, if you will, to say, okay, great. I've spent 12 weeks. Our team this is what we've learned. We've learned that, maybe there's a better way to solve this problem, and it's not the direction we're going. And that's all good, and that's valuable.
Yeah, you actually, you mentioned fail fast and fail often. And indeed, actually, when you're going down the road of new technologies and you're experimenting, innovating. In fact, failure is a side effect of innovation, as long as you can control and manage it. So totally agree with you there. I wanted to actually ask you about the kind of the larger analytics landscape, and as I mean, it's becoming increasingly crowded with architectures and solutions. So what kind of methodologies, architectures, and technologies do you see kind of surviving the test of time in the modern innovative analytics organization?
Yeah, and there are some things that I look at it, and what we learned and did in the past helps us shape what we do in the future. And so, what we go and look at, what we did before that we really like, and what's this new stuff, and how does that shape it in? And, there's a couple things that come in, and when we look at this, and one is, what, it's always better to have your data in one place. You know what? So does that mean that a data lake strategy is a great idea? Yeah, probably. And I think that that strategy will persist. Now it has to be practical, but that is that gives you that platform to go in and do that analytics. The other aspect that is sort of coming out of this is transform the data when you need it. If I, because I transform the data differently if I'm doing, let's say I'm going to do a POC and I got a data scientist trying to tell me to do some exploratory work. They're going to use that data in a different way than if I'm actually going to go in and do some, business analytics, diagnostic analytics on something, building dashboards. So don't spend your time as we traditionally did doing lots of ETL, but let's do ELT. The other thing that is I say is that what, relational databases still matter. They're still here. They're critical. Yeah, there's lots of really interesting databases. And a matter of fact, I look at it and evaluate that, SQL skills. Well, most of these new databases are adopting to, let's get close to ANSI SQL to be able to go in and access them. So when I talk to particularly, people who are interested in becoming data engineers or data scientists, I often go and say, okay, you need to know how to go in and manipulate data and need to know how to do SQL. And the other thing that always comes back to me is, there's nothing better than a good dimensional model. So if I have a good dimensional model and I'm doing business analysis, tools like it, your Tableau, your Spotfire, your Power BI, all these nice visualization tools work really well with that kind of platform. So, whether you're using that when you transform data for a particular situation where you're doing some analysis, there's nothing better than that. And, maybe it's, we don't need to, you can deviate from that a bit, but if you kind of start with that mindset, I always find that gets you in a right place. And the other thing, when I look at this, and it's more of how organizations approach AI and ML. What they do is they'll go in and they'll they will look at AI, ML and say, okay, well, this guy knows SQL. I need to go in and he's going to be our AI expert. Well, it's a totally different skill set. So when we go in, we architect it, data scientists approach problems in a different way. But to actually go in and be successful, you need to form that team that goes in, and that team will consist of data scientists, data engineers, data visualizations, and even software developers. Because what is, as a friend of mine at Google once said, his job at Google was working with data scientists and taking what these fabulous models they did and actually code them up so they could be used in their autonomous vehicles reliably and robustly. So, the technology and architectures are good, but also the structure of your team and how you're going to solve that is really important.
Absolutely, the expertise and knowledge and how those the scientists and statisticians merge with the business objectives and also the technical infrastructure and skills. So totally agree with you there, Brian. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I'm really looking forward to your event in early 2021.
I am as well. Thanks, Wade. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks, Brian. Bye-bye.
Bye now.